Hello everyone, this is Matteo and today I'm going to play a little with ComfyUI. The goal is to create this kind of anime-like realistic illustrations without the need of a LoRa or a checkpoint specifically trained for that. And the cool thing is that you can set the realism factor from cartoonish to very realistic. So everything starts from a good checkpoint. You need a generic model, and I find deliberate to be a good one for what we are going to do today. The prompt is very simple. I like to split it into three parts. The first is the main subject, then we have the settings of the scene, and finally keywords like cinematic, highly detailed, and so on. And all these will serve only as a scaffolding for the illustration that we are going to do later, so I'm not worried about the fine details. I just want that the composition is fine. Let's see what we've got. Okay, this is a good start already. The image is a little bit burnt, but it is not important because we are going for an anime style, so high contrast is good. But what I don't like is that there's a lot of bleeding between the tokens that I've given in the positive prompt. You can see that in the prompt I have perfect piercing blue eyes, and the scene became all blue, not only the eyes but also the armor and the background too. So to fix that, we can split our positive prompt into two vectors and merge them with a conditioning concat node, like so. The order is not important. Now, in the first prompt, I will only have the main subject. So, portrait photo of a muscular woman wearing a sci-fi worn mech armor. Now, there are a couple of important keywords here. One is muscular and the other is sci-fi. Muscular helps to bring the attention back to the body of the woman, otherwise we will very likely get only the face. And the sci-fi keeps the attention away from fantasy because we used armor. We only want futuristic armors and not fantasy ones. Now we can remove from the second prompt the main subject and keep everything else. This way we have two separate vectors that do not bleed too much into each other. So let's see the difference. As you can see now, the scene is less blue. The armor is still bluish but better than before, and overall we have more brown tones, which is nice. So I think this is a good start for our illustration. Let's go to the next step, that is adding a touch of IP adapters. Just for curiosity's sake, let me try to remove muscular and write like strong and see if we get a portrait instead of a body shot. As you can see, the attention is not on the body anymore but only on the face because we have portrait as first token in our prompt. So let's put muscular back and go to the next step. So the easiest way to add the IP adapter is by starting with the apply IP adapter node, and then you can simply drag all the inputs and select the node. This is the IP adapter model loader, then the clip vision loader, and we have to load an image. Then we connect the model and back to the K-sampler. Now we have essentially three options for the IP adapter model. One is the base model, the other is the plus model, and the last one is the light model. You have to experiment a little, but if you want just a hint of the reference image, you either pick the light model or the base model. The plus would be too strong. So I'm starting with the base model, and as per the reference image, I have this very nice scene. You can pick actually whatever you want, but it has to be very simple and very cartoonish. There should be not too many elements, otherwise the scene is going to be contaminated too much. Of course we want to lower the weight. I'm starting with 0.35, and it's always a good practice to prepare the image for the clip vision, so I'm going also to add a prep image for clip vision node. The crop position is in the center, and let's see the result. And now we have a strong comic book, graphic novel kind of illustration. It's not exactly what I was aiming for. Also, the eye is a little bit crooked, and so I'm going to first of all lower the weight, and I'm also adding a bit of noise that often helps with the generation. Now it's closer to what I want, but I think I'm going to add a little weight to get some anime style back. And this is pretty good. Now the face is a little vanilla. I want it to have a stronger character, so I'm going to try to add some famous actress to the positive prompt. We need someone who played some strong character, and we can try with Michelle Rodriguez. Now it is certainly more interesting. We can try with like Lucy Lawless, Zoe Saldana, Miranda Otto, or Rosario Dawson. Now this is a good one. Now let's try to change the reference image and see if we get more interesting result. As you can see, the reference image doesn't need to be of the same kind of the image that we want to generate. In this case, this is not a sci-fi scene, but of course, if it is close, it is better. So let me see what I have here. Okay, this is closer to what we want. Let's see what happens now. Since the reference is closer to our subject, now we can set a higher weight. Let's try with 0.40. And of course, this is a portrait, so we lost part of the body, but it's fine. It's a very nice illustration, very well lit, and a good candidate for the next step, which is upscaling. So there are many ways we can upscale an image, aka high-res fix. If the upscaled image can be very different from the original, we can upscale the latent directly, and probably one of the best method is with the NN latent upscale. But we want to use a low denoise, so I'm not going to use this one. On the other side of the spectrum, we have upscaling with tile control net, and that will grant an upscaled image that is very close to the original, but I want a certain grade of freedom when upscaling. So what I'm actually going to use is a model upscaling in the pixel space. So I add an image upscale with model, then I grab the inputs and select the upscale model loader. I like the full Handy's Remakri model, but you can use whatever you want. We connect the image. So this is a 4x upscaler, and it is a little too much. So I'm going to scale the image down, with image scale by node by 0.5, so the resulting image will be 2 times the original. Then we need to convert the pixel image into the latent space with Vade encode. We need the Vade model, and finally we can connect a second K-sampler. I can copy this, and with Ctrl-Shift-V we'll pass the K-sampler, keeping all the pipe connections. Of course, I need the latent from the upscaled image. Now for the model, I don't want the one that comes from the IPAdapter, but I'm going to connect directly from the original model, because I want to be able to get back some realism out of this image. When upscaling, I like to use DPM++2M with Karl scheduler, and we change the seed. We don't need many steps. 20 are usually more than enough. And of course, we need to lower the noise. The lower the noise, the closer we will be to the original image. Let's stay pretty close, so 0.25 for now. Then I need to decode, and finally we can preview the image. This is very nice. We lost just a little bit of vibrancy because we don't have the influence of the reference image, so the upscaled image is going slowly towards realism. And let's increase the denoise a little bit more. Let's try 35. And as you can see, the more I increase the denoise, the more realistic the image gets. And at this point it's just a matter of personal preference. And I think this is a good midway between realistic and illustration. Since the denoise is so high, probably we want to customize an upscaling prompt. So let me grab a new positive and let's see if we can get a slightly better result. And I think that we pretty much reached our goal. Let's try some other seed. Oh, this is very cool. Really nice. Let's try with another reference. Let's try something completely different, like this one. I have to crop the image to the top. I want to try to increase the CFG scale. I got some face tattoo. We can remove them. Let me try with something completely different, which is a more Western style. This is a more Western superhero comic book style. Let me remove some weight. Yeah, this is a completely different style, but still interesting. I have here an anime sexy. I want to see what it is. Okay. Now she is a little less dressed, and the result is still very nice. Okay, I tidy up the workflow a little. I have the IPAdapter on top, then the main generation, the model upscaling, and finally the second pass with dedicated negative and positive, so we can fine-tune the final result. Let's see what we get. And this is a pretty decent generation. There's one more thing that I want to try, and that is adding a little bit of sharpening. To do that, I'm using a CAS sharpening node. CAS stands for Contrast Adaptive Sharpening. It is a very smart way to apply sharpening that only affects areas that are on focus, while the blur sections like the background or the right shoulder won't be affected that much. So I am applying this as very last step before the encoding, and a small amount is enough. Let's see the difference. And as you can see now, the face is slightly more detailed, but the areas that were blurred stay blurred. Okay, so far we've only used the base IPAdapter model, and I want to try the light one, IPAdapter SD15 Lite. This one gives a lot more importance to our text prompt, so we can increase the weight. Let's see how it goes. Yes, in fact now we have a full body, like the original picture without IPAdapter, and the end result is still pretty cool. We can try another seed. Let's set the base model back and lower the weight. We should get a close-up now. This is nice, but the eyes are not very detailed, and to fix that we could try with some in-painting, but instead I want to give SDXL a try. I'm loading the base model, changing the way. I'm disabling the upscaling for now, we'll see later. With Ctrl M, I can mute the nodes. Then we have to select the IPAdapter SDXL model, and of course we have to increase the resolution. For SDXL we need a better scheduler, so we are going to use exponential. This is true for DPM++2M SDE sampler, and I think I've done everything. Let's see. So this is probably too tall. Let me remove a little bit of height, and now it's much better. The IPAdapter is too strong now. Let's try to lower it a little. This is not too bad. I'll try with another reference, this one. Let me try to add my magic keywords to the negative, horror and zombie. And in fact now it is more pleasant. I want a close-up so we can see the eyes better. I'm removing muscular. Now let's do a second pass over this image. I'm not going to upscale the image because it is already at a high resolution. So I'm disabling the upscale with Ctrl B, but I'm still applying the CAS sharpening. And now we have better eyes and fine detailed skin. We can also try with a community SDXL model. I should have Juggernaut XL, yes. Now the IPAdapter is not strong enough. The composition is not great, but we have very nice eyes and it's overall very pleasant. I want to try another seed. Yeah, much better. The armor is very nice and still very nice eyes. Okay, one last thing, because it is not anime if it is not animated. So I generated this image with the previous workflow. I am passing it through the IPAdapter with a very strong weight. Then I simplified the text prompt because all the heavy lifting is done by the IPAdapter. I'm only adding short hair flowing in the wind just to be sure that there will be some kind of movement. Then I'm replicating the image 32 times with the repeat latent batch. So our animation will be of 32 frames. And since AnimateDiff models are trained at 16 frames, we use a uniform context option node that will split our animation in 2 chunks and finally go through the AnimateDiff loader. It's pretty much all default settings. I'm only using a higher motion scale. The default is 1. I'm using 1.125 because I'm basically doing an image to image on a still frame. I do not have any control net. So to ensure that there will be actually some movement, I'm setting the motion scale a little higher. And since this is going to add some noise, I'm lowering the denoise in the K sampler so the original image will be a little stronger. It is a rather basic workflow, but something should come out of it. Let's see. Well, it's nothing special, but it's pretty impressive if you consider that only 3 months ago we couldn't do something like this. So this would be all for today. I hope you found this video interesting. Let me know if you would like to see more videos like this, and see you next time. Ciao!